There was once a boy who lived in a quiet village, surrounded by rolling fields and the slow rhythm of life. His name was Arun. To the villagers, Arun was known for one thing, not his brilliance, not his hard work, but his laziness. While others woke early to fetch water, tend to animals, or study under the shade of the great banyan tree, Arun would linger in bed, waiting for the day to pass. People often whispered about him, shaking their heads in disappointment, believing his life would amount to nothing. And perhaps for a time Arun believed it too, yet hidden inside him like a seed buried deep in the soil was potential waiting for the right season to break through. Psychologists today often explain that laziness is rarely about lack of talent. More often it is about fear, low motivation, or absence of purpose. In fact, studies show that when people discover meaningful goals, their productivity can increase dramatically. Laziness is not always permanent. It can be a pause before transformation. Arun's turning point came when his father fell ill, and the responsibility of providing for the family fell on his young shoulders. For the first time, he understood that others depended on him, and with that came urgency, discipline, and determination. His days of idle comfort slowly gave way to purposeful action. Arun's story is more than a village tale. It is a mirror of our own lives. Laziness is not the absence of ability, but the absence of action. And when we choose to act, even in small steps, we begin shaping the destiny that once felt out of reach. Lesson 1. Laziness grows in comfort. Arun's story began in the lap of comfort, and that is both where his blessing and his downfall took root. His family was not rich, but they had enough. Meals were always ready, shelter was steady, and kindness flowed from neighbors like a natural spring. For a child growing up in such ease, the days felt soft, almost too soft. Morning light painted the sky in gentle hues, yet instead of meeting the day, Arun often buried himself deeper beneath his blanket. This quiet pattern revealed a truth many of us overlook. When life makes no demands, we often forget the strength we carry within. Comfort, while sweet, has the power to dull ambition. Psychologists describe this as the comfort trap. Human behavior is shaped not only by ability but also by environment. When life requires little of us, our minds adapt by conserving energy. Laziness, then, is not always weakness. Often it is simply the body responding to the absence of necessity. Arun's life drifted like a boat on still waters, safe but without direction. This mirrors countless real-life situations. A student delays studying because deadlines seem distant. A person ignores exercise because health feels secure. A dream is postponed because tomorrow always feels available. In the short term, nothing seems urgent. Yet over time, this stillness robs us of growth. Nature itself offers a lesson. A tree planted in shallow soil may look fine at first, but because its roots never dig deep, it will wither at the first storm. Likewise, a life lived only in ease does not cultivate resilience. True growth comes not in comfort, but in challenge. For Arun, the turning point arrived when his father's illness disrupted the family's stability. Suddenly, survival required action. In that moment, his laziness dissolved, not because his character changed overnight, but because necessity demanded his hidden strength. His story reminds us that what we call laziness is often comfort in disguise, and the cure is not shame, but stepping willingly into challenge. Growth begins the moment we dare to leave ease behind. Lesson 2. Responsibility creates strength. When Arun's father fell ill, a quiet but powerful shift occurred in his life. Until then, he had lived with the comfort of others, carrying the load, drifting through days without urgency. But suddenly the household tasks, feeding animals, drawing water, preparing meals, fell on his shoulders. At first, the weight felt unbearable, unfair even. Yet responsibility has a way of stripping away excuses. Each day demanded action, not tomorrow, not later, but now. Over time, his resistance gave way to habit, and habit matured into discipline. His body grew stronger, his hands roughened with work, and his mind sharpened as he realized that survival required consistency. This transformation is not unique to Arun. Across cultures and generations, responsibility has been the great shaper of character. Consider the young parent who learns to rise at night for their child, or the student who studies long hours for a better tomorrow. Responsibility draws out strength hidden within, often unnoticed until necessity reveals it. In fact, psychologists suggest that responsibility activates intrinsic motivation. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that when people feel accountable for others, their brain releases higher levels of dopamine, the neurotransmitter tied to motivation and reward. Simply put, knowing someone depends on you can push you beyond what you thought possible. Arun's life became proof of this. The boy once known for laziness now woke before dawn, not because he enjoyed labor, but because he could not let his family down. This is the quiet power of responsibility. It teaches that waiting for motivation is a trap. Duty itself creates the spark. Responsibility is not about being ready, it is about becoming ready when life demands it. Arun's story reminds us that by stepping into responsibility, whether for family, work or community, we discover inner reservoirs of strength that turn weakness into resilience. Lesson 3. Small steps break great laziness. Arun's transformation reminds us of a timeless truth. Change is not sudden, but gradual and always built upon consistent effort. He did not wake up one morning as a completely disciplined boy. Instead, his life shifted through daily practice, repetition, and patience. Psychologists describe this as the compound effect, the principle that small, repeated actions accumulate into remarkable results over time. Imagine saving just one coin each day. Over the years, that habit grows into wealth. In the same way, Arun's early attempts, though clumsy and imperfect, laid the foundation for lasting growth. The first pot of food he cooked may have tasted bitter, and his arms shook as he carried water from the well. But persistence turned these weaknesses into skills. In modern science, this principle is also supported by neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through practice. Every time Arun pushed himself to work rather than sleep, he was training both his body and mind, building stronger neural pathways that favored discipline over idleness. Just as athletes strengthen muscles through repetition, he strengthened his willpower through simple acts like sweeping or tending animals. Over time, his community noticed a shift. The once lazy boy had become reliable, steady, and trustworthy. His story shows us that laziness is not defeated by grand gestures, but by humble, consistent choices that gather momentum and gradually reshape our lives. Lesson 4. Purpose fuels energy. As Arun's workdays stretched on, something subtle yet profound shifted within him. What once felt like endless drudgery became a source of strength. Scientists have long studied this transformation, noting that when a person finds purpose, the brain engages regions tied to identity and long-term vision rather than fleeting emotion. Unlike motivation, which can vanish as quickly as it appears, purpose fuels endurance. For Arun, this shift happened the moment he saw his work not as meaningless chores, but as acts of love. Carrying water was no longer just carrying water, it was nourishing his family. Repairing the fence was no longer just fixing wood, it was protecting his home. Each task became part of a bigger story, one where his choices mattered. Studies even show that individuals who live with a strong sense of purpose tend to live longer, face stress with greater resilience, and experience higher levels of well-being. Arun's journey reminds us of this timeless truth. When what you do connects to why it matters, energy rises naturally, and even the heaviest load feels lighter. Lesson 5. Action proves worth. In time, Arun's reputation shifted in a way that teaches us a timeless lesson about human behavior. At first, he was seen as lazy, unreliable, and unmotivated. But as he began to take responsibility for his life, the perception others had of him slowly changed. Psychologists often point out that consistency is the strongest marker of trust. When someone repeatedly shows up, fulfills their duties and follows through on tasks, people begin to believe in their reliability. History also shows this pattern. Leaders, inventors, and reformers are rarely remembered for what they said they would do, but for what they accomplished. Words can inspire, but without action they remain empty. Arun's steady actions became the undeniable proof of his growth. Each day he woke up earlier, each task he finished, and each responsibility he carried added another brushstroke to the portrait of his new character. This transformation highlights a powerful truth. The greatest proof of change isn't in convincing others, it's in convincing yourself that you are capable of more. Arun's quiet determination became a reminder that reputations aren't rewritten overnight, but with persistence, they can be reshaped entirely. So, dear listener, before you sink too deeply into comfort, remember Arun's story. Laziness is not a prison, it is a choice. And every choice, once changed, reshapes destiny. If this story touched you, take a small step today. And before you go, gently tap that like button. Subscribe if you enjoy these reflections and share in the comments where you're listening from.